What is up guys, Jarv here, back today jumping into Destiny 2. Now in today's video we're taking a look once again at one of the hardest submachine guns to get inside Destiny 2. Not only that, this is a potential replacement for Recluse as well. So if you want to find out what it is and where you can get it, but more importantly the sort of role you should be seeking out, then be sure to stick around and enjoy the video. If you do enjoy the video, be sure to leave a comment and rating down below, and remember to subscribe for more Destiny 2 content. But without further delay guys, let's jump into the video. Now recently here on the channel we covered an SMG which is seen as one of the hardest SMGs currently to obtain inside Destiny 2. It goes head to head with the Kelos SMG, and if you haven't checked out that video, I highly recommend that you do, and I'll leave the link to that down in the video description below. But in today's video we're taking a look at once again another very rare submachine gun. So rare in fact that not many people have it, and if you do, not many people have a good role. But in today's video we're going to put it under the spotlight, show you how you can get your hands on it, and more importantly the role you should be getting, which makes this the potential replacement for Recluse. So if you're still a big fan of submachine guns, then you will need to seek out the Borrowed Time. This is a solar submachine gun, which is an aggressive frame, so it deals high damage but has high recoil. Now here we have ricochet rounds, which is helping increase its stability and also slightly boosting its range. We also have the choice of appended mag, which increases the magazine size, but this only grants 2 additional rounds. So for the sake of more stability and a little bit more range, we're going to use ricochet rounds in this instance. Now next up we've got Feeding Frenzy, so with each rapid kill with the weapon, this will progressively increase your reload speed for a short time. And in the final column we have a newish perk called Frenzy, so just being in combat for an extended time will increase the weapon's damage, handling and reload for the weapon until you are out of combat. Now Frenzy and the benefits to reload stack on top of Feeding Frenzy, making this one of the fastest reload speeds available inside Destiny 2. So much so the downtime is very minimal, keeping you in the action for longer. Now a lot of the perks that I have on this role here are very similar to what was available on the Recluse originally. Ricochet rounds was one of the perks on Recluse alongside Feeding Frenzy, but the main difference and a comparison we will be making is the difference between Frenzy and also Master of Arms. Master of Arms was a very strong perk which could be activated using any weapon, and whilst that's no longer the case with Frenzy, Frenzy doesn't require kills to be active, you simply just need to be in combat, and for most of the time submachine guns you're using up close, meaning you're in the thick of the action most of the time. So what you'll find with this weapon is when you're under pressure or being surrounded by many combatants, Frenzy kicks in just when you need it, so much so that it allows the weapon to deal additional damage, and as the Borrowed Time is an aggressive frame, this makes it one of the hardest hitting submachine guns available inside Destiny 2. Now whilst this weapon is an aggressive frame, it has a very controllable recoil pattern. And if you're able to get multiple defeats on combatants and stack Frenzy on top of Feeding Frenzy, as we said earlier in the video, this will allow you to get back into the thick of the action as soon as possible. So much so it almost feels like you have crowd control intrinsically on this submachine gun. Now if you haven't got your hands on a Borrowed Time submachine gun, you can get this via the Gambit playlist. It has a chance to drop on completing any Gambit match, whether that's win or lose. And the thing that makes it difficult to get a good Borrowed Time is the fact that this weapon is in a very large loot pool. It's in a loot pool with the bottom dollar, but pretty much all the Splicer weapons too. So not only is getting your hands on one difficult, getting a good roll is even harder. Now if we take a closer look at Master of Arms and Feeding Frenzy, we'll start off with the Recluse and Master of Arms. Now the base damage on the Recluse is 1128 per round, but once you defeat a combatant, this boosts up to 1355, providing a 20% increase. You can increase this further by either using a minor or major spec, and these will provide a further 7% buff to the weapon's damage. Now as for the Borrowed Time, this can deal 1622 in base damage per round. With Frenzy active by just being close to combatants, this increases to 1865, providing a 15% increase overall. The major difference being you don't have to defeat a combatant to even activate the Frenzy perk. And much like Master of Arms, you can boost this further by equipping either a minor or major spec mod, boosting this by an additional 7%. So that's a quick look at what each weapon does per round depending on which one you're using and which perks are active. But what does that equate to across the entire magazine? Well, the Recluse can hold 36 rounds in a magazine, therefore dealing 48,780 in damage if you had Master of Arms up the entire time. As for the Borrowed Time, this had 28 rounds with appended mag, and if you have Frenzy up the entire time, this will deliver 52,220. So if you're looking for total damage across the entire magazine, whenever these perks are active, then the Borrowed Time will come out on top. So that's a quick look at all the weapons' base numbers and damage, but what about the perks? Now the borrowed time has 12 perks in each column, therefore having over 140 different perk combinations based on the last 2 trees alone. That makes getting a god roll immensely difficult, which in part is why this weapon is so rare. Now the weapon does have a lot of familiar perks whilst having some of the newer perks which have been introduced over the course of the last few seasons. Things like Heating Up and Tunnel Vision can be found on this weapon, alongside Killing Wind and even Surplus. Now in terms of the favourite community roles, naturally Ricochet Rounds and Feeding Frenzy is there, and in fact Rampage is the most popular perk in the community currently, where kills with the weapon will temporarily grant increased damage, and as we know that stacks up to 3 times. The next most popular role is Armor Piercing Rounds alongside Overflow and the perk we covered today in Frenzy. So if you're able to get a combination of either of those roles, you'll have one of the strongest and best submachine guns available in Destiny 2. Now as this weapon is an RNG drop, either from Gambit matches or upgrade packages, it's a very difficult weapon to find, and due to the 144 plus different role combinations you can get on this weapon, getting a good roll is even harder. But if you've been playing Season of the Splicer all season, then be sure to check your vaults guys to see if you've got one gathering some dust. So that's a good look at the weapon's damage, some of the perks and roles you should be seeking out, but how does this stack up against the other SMGs in the archetype, but more importantly the weapon stats on the Recluse? So if we bring up the weapon's stats, we've added the Untitled SMG alongside the Extraordinary Rendition as well. Those are both aggressive frame, the same as the borrowed time. We also have the Recluse, and the Recluse is a lightweight frame, therefore a lot of the base weapon stats tend to be higher across the board with the exception of impact and range. But when you compare borrowed time to the other aggressive frames, you can see that the Untitled statistically across the board comes out on top. Now the Untitled SMG is one of the most popular SMGs inside Destiny 2. It's easy to obtain, it creates Warmind cells, and it comes with things like Vorpal Weapon and Surrounded, which help boost the weapon's damage. So if you're looking for that easy access SMG that's solid in pretty much every activity, the Untitled SMG and even the Extraordinary Rendition are top tier choices. Now the main difference between the Extraordinary Rendition and Borrowed Time is that the Rendition is a kinetic SMG. Now this SMG can also roll with Frenzy, so Frenzy is the perk of choice that you're really seeking out to have on an SMG to try and mimic some of the amazing damage output that Recluse had to offer. Then it may be worth handing in some Umbral engrams over at the Prismatic Recaster and even focusing them on Season of the Chosen loot. But Borrowed Time is one of the strongest submachine guns inside Destiny 2, one of the rarest, especially of solar element. So if you're looking to relive those Recluse days, and something that can stand the test of time and isn't going to get sunset as things currently stand, then it may be time to jump into Gambit and try and get your hands on the god roll of the Borrowed Time. So there we have it guys, a good look at the Borrowed Time, what is probably the rarest SMG inside Destiny 2, especially with the Recluse role that we covered in today's video. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to check out one of the 2 videos you see here in these cards for more Destiny 2 content. I'm going to jump back into the game as always guys, and I will catch you all again very soon.